Donnie and Dolly. The team is supported by ableauctions.ca. Closing your business? We can help.
Wednesday, and all of our guests today are brought to you by our title sponsor, Able Auctions, ableauctions.ca. More on Able a little bit later. But right now we're joined by, from Sekeres and Price, the Rink Wide podcast, and the Hockey News, Jeff Paterson. And we should say that Patrick Allvin, we didn't mention this in our first segment, Patrick Allvin, general manager of the Vancouver Canucks, available to the media later today.
Yeah, 1 o'clock.
Pre-draft avail, as they call it.
Could he not have done it at 11? Again, as soon as our show is over, the Canucks announce news.
They don't like us.
They know.
Yeah.
They know we are on the air 10 to 12. So what do? 1 o'clock, Allvin. There's something there. There is something there.
Look into it and get back to me on that as we bring in Jeff Paterson. How are you, sir?
I'm good. Ricky, I'm going to take up your cause this afternoon. I'm heading down to the rink. Forget OEL buyout, forget the draft, forget update on Ethan Bear. My first question right out of the gate is going to be, what do you have against Donnie and Dahl?
Yeah, I think, can you, you can get back to us on that. Well, Jeff, first time we've had you on since Friday when the Canucks made the OEL announcement, moments after our show ended. Just your reaction to that piece of news.
Yeah, I was shocked, Donnie. I just didn't think that the organization had the appetite to write a $20 million check to make OEL go away. And so all along, I thought that they were going to hope that he had this incredible summer rehabbing and working out and was going to come back strong and was going to get a chance to play with Filip Hronek under Adam Foote and in Rick Tocchet's structured system. And I thought they were going to see what they could get out of OEL. But clearly, as time ticked away, and I take Patrick Allvin at face value. In April, when he said it wasn't his intention to use buyouts, I believed him. I think that was the truth. But as April became May, and May became June, and now we're into the final week up ahead in the first round of the draft a week from today, they couldn't clear cap space. And so it sort of was the nuclear option, and it had to be done now to really recognize the truest of savings for the hockey club in terms of, what they have, the $7 million that they've gained this year as opposed to doing it a year from now. So I understand it. It's not my money, but man, that's still an awfully big check for the Aquilinis to write. And now the question that everybody's asking is, what are they going to do with that money? Are they going to be able to spend it wisely? Do they spend it at all? But keep in mind, you don't take that sort of action without having a plan to follow. So we haven't seen the next shoe drop yet, but I don't think that they just randomly decided on Friday to buy out OEL without having the rest of the dominoes sort of set up in their mind. Now it's a question, can they execute their plan?
They made that deal less than 2 years ago, Jeff. It seems longer than that. I'll put you under the gun here. Do you remember what your initial reaction was when it happened?
Yeah, I didn't like it. It felt like a job preservation move by Jim Benning, who, I think we all thought was on borrowed time by that point, and he went all in instead of sitting back and, just being patient and trying to wait out his own mistakes. I mean, if they had the patience to just let those bad contracts run their course, not only would they have Dylan Guenther in the fold, but they would have had all this cap money that they could have spent in different ways. But all those years of not making the playoffs, I think the pressure was on. And it was an ill-advised move. I remember thinking that myself. I know it was universally panned in hockey circles. And Donnie, maybe the craziest thing in all of this is that Oliver Ekman-Larsson is 31. He's not 36 or 38. Yes. And the rapid decline and how much of it can be chalked up to the injury at the Worlds last year. But, it's incredible. When you look at OEL last year, I mean, the Canucks were outscored by 22 at even strength when he was on the ice. And he only played 3/4 of the game. So they were outscored by 22 when he was on the ice. They outscored their opponents by 20 when Quinn Hughes was on the ice, and it just shows you the difference. I mean, that's a 40-goal swing. When Hughes was out there, the ice was tilted in the Canucks' favor, and when OEL was out there, I mean, all they did was defend, and more often than not, pick the puck out of their own net, and, just the way the speed of the game had passed him by. So I'm going to be fascinated to see. I have to think that there is a team that'll take him on a low value, 1 year sort of show me deal. I hope he goes somewhere that's out of the limelight. There isn't huge expectations on him where he could be slotted as a third pair defenseman, and we'll see if he can regain his game. But boy, the speed of the National Hockey League seems to have passed him by, and this league's not getting slower anytime soon.
Jeff, let's look ahead. We know the Canucks are talking to Kyle Burrows and Noah Juleson. Boy, trying to predict their opening night blue line and what it looks like is going to be amazing. There's so many names. There's so many guys in Abbotsford. What are you thinking right now? I mean, July 1st is around the corner. We've heard the name Carson Soucy if he's available. It's going to be fascinating to see what that blue line looks like.
Right. So it's impossible, Rick. Don't waste any more time trying to figure out the opening night blue line until we get through free agency here. They've got some money to spend. I know there are some people that are saying don't spend at all. But remember, their stated goal is to improve and ultimately to be a playoff team. So I don't think the status quo is going to be anywhere close to good enough. And, the status quo, it would mean they're not going to play with 3 defensemen next season. They need to fill out that blue line. So Philip Hronek is going to obviously play a lot on the right side, but now with the Ethan Bear injury and the OEL buyout, there are holes to fill. You can do some of it from within, but again, I think the OEL plan, or at least the OEL buyout, was part of a plan. So I would imagine that the Canucks are going to spend in free agency, and the question is now, who are they going to target? How much do they want to spend? We know they need a third-line center as well. So the wish list is pretty long here if this team is going to get better. You mentioned Carson Soucy on yesterday's show, and I spent a little bit of time and I wrote a piece at the Hockey News. He checks a lot of boxes for the Canucks. Obviously, he's big. His underlying numbers were really good in Seattle this past season, and even in his years in Minnesota, they were strong. The danger, though, and this is always the danger, is a guy that's a solid third-pairing player somewhere else. Is that all he is? And the Canucks have fallen into this trap of thinking that guys are capable of more if you spend on them and bring them in and put them in a top 4 role. So, I like Carson Soucy. I think he does meet a lot of their needs. Obviously, with Quinn Hughes and Hronek, you're not looking for another guy to be on the power play. You're looking for a player that can come in, be physical, can kill penalties. I think he can do some of that. He had a solid goal differential this season in Seattle. But again, he was a third-pairing guy. And so if you go that road, how much do you want to spend? I think it's going to be so important for the Canucks to be disciplined here, that have a walk-away price. Like, they may like the player, but if they get into a bidding war with somebody else, and this isn't just Carson Soucy, it's any of those unrestricted free agents, the Canucks have to be disciplined, and they have to have a walk-away number where they just decide that it's too rich and that they can't lock themselves into that kind of contract. But the other thing, too, guys, and I see this a lot on social media, is, don't spend any money. And look, just because they've been burned by a past regime and ill-advised moves doesn't mean that you don't go into free agency. Again, they're trying to get better here, and free agency is one of the tools available to teams. So you need your pro scouts. Yeah, you need your pro scouts to absolutely nail it and get it right and make sure that you're unearthing value as opposed to just throwing dollars at players to come your way.
And they just lost 2 defensemen, OEL and Ethan Bear. They have to somehow. The other route, Jeff, is the trade route. They can go out and make a trade, but they have cap space. We know they're going to go out in July 1st and spend. We know they need a centerman and also a defenseman. I want to ask you about Milan Lucci. There's no easier way to get Canucks Twitter fired up than talking about Milan, but. Canucks are too easy to play against. He provides an element that they lack. Not saying that Milan's coming to Vancouver, but it's been investigated. Your thoughts on Lucic?
Yeah, I just feel for the limited money that the Canucks have to spend in free agency, I'm not sure that would be the wisest investment for them. But you are not wrong. I mean, they need size. They need toughness. Rick Tockett's on the record there. Toughness has to be able to play, and there is question, another year down the road for Milan Lucci, who just went overseas and won a world championship, and good for him. But, is he an every night player still in the National Hockey League? Because it doesn't do you much good to have the toughness sitting in the press box. So I think they have to make that determination first and foremost on the player. And I just wonder, too, if you can kill 2 birds with 1 stone and find a little bit of the toughness on the back end. And we know Rick Tocchet loved that Vegas defense, and whether it's Luke Schenn or whether it's a player like Carson Soucy, I'm just not sure that the Vancouver Canucks need Milan Lucic at this stage of his career, even though I understand a Vancouver guy who has stated he would answer the phone if the Canucks called, come full circle after his years with the Vancouver Giants. Like, on some levels, I think it could make sense, but I just think if I'm the one controlling the purse strings for the Vancouver Canucks, I'm probably allocating my money in other areas.
Okay, free agency and a trade aside, I believe you tweeted out something about this, but Brisebois, Rathbone, Wolanin, Hirose, when we're talking left-handed defensemen, the OEL move, as we get back to that, who does it help in the Canuck organization currently?
Yeah, I was asking sort of about that third pairing. I do think that they either by trade or free agency, Donnie, have to go and address the spot behind Quinn Hughes on the depth chart. But look, Christian Wolanin was the American Hockey League Player of the Year, a Defenseman of the Year last year, and looked good in the games that he played for the Canucks. Like I think he probably has the inside track at this point. Akito Hirose certainly showed poise and calm and patience and promise, but he only played 7 games, and let's be honest, they weren't high-stakes games. So I think it's really, truly hard to get a full read on what Akito Hirose is and can be for the Canucks, but I liked what I saw from him. Guillaume Brisebois didn't hurt himself last year with his audition. And again, we're talking about size. We're talking about people that can kill penalties. Brisebois played that role when he was up here. And it just feels like Jack Rathbone is the forgotten man in all of this. And the responses I got to that question on social media, I would say 80% of the people think that Jack Rathbone needs to change the scenery, that he doesn't figure in the plans here, that with Quinn Hughes, he does a lot of those same things that Quinn Hughes does, and the question remains, can he defend at the National Hockey League level? So I was a little surprised at just how many people have already written Jack Rathbone off. At the same time, he's 24. It does feel like a sort of now or never for him to become a full-time National Hockey Leaguer. So we'll see what kind of summer he has. We'll see if he's here when training camp arrives. And if he is he given a legitimate look to make this hockey club out of camp?
All right. Have a good time at the Canucks press conference, Jeff. We appreciate this.
Please ask about us why. Ask about why they hate Donnie and Dolly.
I will. I'll give Patrick your best. So
they like our show on Wednesdays because that's when Jeff's on. Thanks, Jeff.
Well, and I'll check in next Wednesday, which of course will be hours before the first round of the NHL draft. So it's all coming. Right. We've ground through these couple of months here since the season ended. It's go time now. Things are going to happen in the next 10 days. So
big time.
It should be an exciting time for Canuck fans. Yeah.
All the best, Jeff. Talk to you next week.
Thanks, guys.